Hello, podheads. Welcome back to another episode of Over My Dead Pod. I'm Kylie Colwell,
This is Kate Carter.
And I'm Holly Spear.
and we're picking up where we left off last week, discussing the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. Quickly, if you haven't listened to part one, go do that, come back, or else this could be a little confusing. But we left off at the point in the case when the dogs were brought in, samples were taken, and sent off for testing. But before those results could come in, the police in Portugal called in Jerry and Kate McCann for a meeting. This meeting wasn't just a meeting to go over the case, though. The Portuguese investigators called in the McCanns to essentially tell them that they abandoned the abduction theory. They told the McCanns that the case was now being treated as a murder investigation, and they were going to be questioned as suspects. According to Kate, investigators suggested that if she admitted Madeleine had died accidentally in the apartment and that she had hidden the body, she might receive only a 2-year sentence. And they allegedly told her that Jerry would not be charged. Both parents refused to admit to anything. Jerry did answer some questions, but Kate declined to respond to 48 questions during an 11-hour interrogation following advice from her attorney. On September 7th, 2007, both Kate and Jerry McCann were formally named as suspects publicly. 4 days before, however, the forensics that were sent to England came back. The sample from the car trunk contained 15 of Madeleine's 19 DNA components, but the profile was complex, involving at least 3 contributors, possibly as many as 5. The lab concluded that the result was, quote, too complex for meaningful interpretation, end quote. In other words, the test could not determine whether the DNA truly belonged to Madeleine or was simply a coincidental mixture. So some of her parents' DNA might have been mixed in there, and that would probably show as a pop for Madeleine, is what I gathered from that. And also, we talk about it all the time. People leave trace DNA everywhere. I could hug Kate or Holly, and my DNA can end up in a car they get in that I've never even been in. But the Portuguese press were told by police officers leaking information, which they had been doing this entire time, that the DNA evidence was a 100% match. They claimed that a clump of Madeleine's hair was found in the trunk and that Jerry and Kate were sedating the children so they would sleep through the night and the parents could stay up late partying. The running theory was that Madeleine had died as a result of an accidental overdose and that the top of 7 helped to cover up the crime. And I know this theory comes up a lot, and I kind of believed it at first, but hair samples were taken from the twins, so Madeleine's siblings, and Kate, her mom, and there were no traces of drugs found. So it wouldn't make sense to sedate one child and not the other two, especially when the twins were much younger and more likely to have woken up crying in the middle of the night. Also, Kate and Jerry are doctors, so I mean, yes, would have had access to sedatives, but the likelihood of them accidentally overdosing someone with them, far more unlikely.
Yeah, I totally agree about that.
Mhm. And I also incorrectly remembered in this case something about syringes being found either in the apartment or the car, but upon further research, that has not been confirmed. As far as we know, that was just a rumor put out by a tabloid paper. So there's no evidence of syringes or any kind of sedative medication that no one should have had in the apartment, car, etc. Anyways, despite being formally named as suspects, the McCanns were able to leave Portugal, and on the advice of their attorneys, they did just that and went home to England. The investigation in Portugal continued, and the very next day, September 8th, 2007, the chief inspector signed a 9-page report with their conclusion. According to the investigator, Madeleine McCann had died inside apartment 5A as a result of an accident. The report suggested that the tapas dinner that evening and the parents' apparent routine checks on the children had been part of a cover story. It alleged that the group, known as the Tapas 7, had helped to mislead police. It also claimed that Madeleine's body had been concealed before the parents staged what investigators believed was a fake abduction. And on September 11th, a case file was handed over to a judge by the prosecutor. The prosecutor also applied for a warrant to seize Kate's diaries and Jerry's laptop and to trace their phone calls with other members of the Tapas 7. Behind the scenes, the investigation was attracting attention at the highest levels. On September 28th, according to a leaked diplomatic cable, The United States ambassador to Portugal, Al Hoffman, wrote about a meeting he had held with the British ambassador, Alexander Ellis. Ellis reportedly acknowledged that British police had helped develop the evidence that now pointed towards the McCann parents, but he emphasized that authorities from both countries were cooperating closely. The cable also suggested that the intense media coverage was expected and acceptable so long as government officials kept their own discussions private, which it was not, clearly. Basically, in this case, everything is getting leaked, which is lovely.
I feel like if I was I don't know, I feel kind of like a pro and a con towards that. If I was the parents, I don't know if I'd want everything leaked, but then you also kind of do want as much media coverage as possible. But we also know media coverage can totally sway a case.
And here's the thing with this one is they're leaking incorrect information. They're like, oh, strands of Madeleine's hair was found in the trunk of the car that they had rented or had begun to rent 3 weeks after she disappeared. And we now know that that's not true.
In this case, most of it's not helpful.
Not at all.
Yeah.
The dramatics continued, though, because on October 2nd, Chief Inspector Amaral was removed from the case after criticizing the British police. He said the British police were only focused on leads that supported the McCann's version of events. Chief Amaral was also named as a suspect in an unrelated disappearance of an 8-year-old girl named Joanna Cipriano. Joanna had vanished in 2004 in a town 7 miles away from the Ocean Club Resort. Body never found. Her mother and uncle were eventually convicted of her murder after confessing, but the mother later recanted her confession and claimed that police had beaten her during questioning. Amaral was not there during the questioning and beating, but he was accused of helping to cover it up. In May of 2009, Amaral was convicted of perjury and received an 18-month sentence for falsifying police records. So back in the Madeleine McCann investigation, leadership changed hands. The case was taken over by Paulo Rebelo, the Deputy National Director of the Portuguese Judicial Police. Rebelo expanded the investigative team and ordered a full review of the case. In November of 2007, Portuguese investigators traveled to the United Kingdom to meet with Leicester police and forensic specialists. Months later in April, members of the top of 7 were interviewed again, this time in England, with Portuguese police present. The investigators even planned a reconstruction of the events at the resort. They wanted the McCanns and their friends to participate, but every single one of them declined. So by this point, the relationship between the McCanns and the Portuguese authorities had deteriorated badly, which I can see why. If you are completely innocent, you know you're innocent, and the people who are supposed to be finding your daughter are only pointing fingers at you, I would be pretty pissed off too.
Especially, we see it a lot throughout this whole story, but especially in this case, like no matter what you say or do, it's not really helpful.
Not at all.
Yeah, and also especially if they have any sense of what an investigation is supposed to be like, where things aren't getting leaked and crime scenes are taped off and the investigation is going like it should.
This tension became clear again in December of 2007. On the same day, the McCanns appeared at the European Parliament to promote a monitoring system for missing children. Transcripts of their police interviews were leaked to Spanish television. Shortly afterward, the national director of the police, Ribeiro, resigned, citing intense media pressure. He had previously stated publicly that police may have acted too quickly in naming the McCanns as suspects. Even so, as late as May, Portuguese prosecutors were still examining potential charges against the couple, including child abandonment, abduction, homicide, and concealment of a corpse.
Child abandonment is a little crazy. Those are really crazy, actually.
Yeah, apparently if you just leave your kid in the hotel room for a little bit, abandoned. Then there was a major turning point. On July 21st, 2008, Portugal's Attorney General announced that there was no evidence linking any suspect to Madeleine's disappearance. So not Kate and Jerry McCann and not Robert Murat. In a report, the Attorney General wrote that there was, quote, no element of proof whatsoever, end quote, that could allow investigators to reach any conclusion about what had happened to Madeleine. So all three's status as suspects were lifted, and the case was officially closed. 2 weeks later, authorities released their investigative files to the media. more than 11,000 pages. Another 2,000 pages were released the next year. And you can actually click through all of the files at mccannpjfiles.co.uk if you're interested or if you're bored and need to read 13,000 pages of documents.
Perfect. I'll do that later.
So, despite all the files being released, the press were still not letting the McCanns off the hook. A few days after the case was closed, portions of Kate's diary were released by a Portuguese tabloid. The publication came despite a judge's earlier ruling that the diary had been seized illegally and that any copy should be destroyed. Months later, a British tabloid republished the excerpts, this time translated back into English and again without permission. So I'm not going to read the excerpts, they're still out there, but obviously Kate does not want them out there. But it was nothing weird. The release of the diary was obviously another blow to the family and their spirit, but the blows kept coming. Former Inspector Amaral published a book on the case only 3 days after the investigation was archived, and it was titled Maddie, The Truth of the Lie. In it, Amaral argued that Madeleine had died accidentally in apartment 5A and that the McCanns had staged an abduction to conceal her death. The book became an instant bestseller in Portugal. Within months, it had sold 180,000 copies and was translated into 6 languages. A television documentary based on the book aired in Portugal in 2009, attracting more than 2 million viewers. And obviously, the McCanns responded with legal action, and they sued Amaral and his publisher for libel. So Madeleine's Fund, the charitable organization the couple had created after the disappearance, covered the legal cost. And in 2015, a court awarded the McCanns more than 600,000 euros in damages. But the ruling was overturned on appeal in 2016. It reached the Supreme Court. And in 2017, the court ruled against the McCanns. So in the lengthy decision, the judges wrote that although the case had been archived, the McCanns had not been formally cleared by that decision, and a final appeal was rejected the following month. But let's get into Madeleine's Fund and the progress made from donations. Just 12 days after Madeleine disappeared, the McCanns had established the charity. The response from the public was enormous. Within 3 months, more than 80 million people had visited the fund's websites, and donations poured in from around the world. By March 2008, the fund had received nearly 1.9 million pounds, and some of those from pretty famous people. And a reward fund for information eventually reached 2.5 million pounds. But charity was not without controversy. In October 2007, critics noted that the fund had helped pay 2 mortgage payments on the McCanns' home before they were named suspects. The fund stated that it did not cover the couple's legal expenses related to their status as suspects in the disappearance, but that it was used to hire private investigators, which the Portuguese police were not fond of. A British security company called Control Risk was paid for by an anonymous donor, and they started tracking down leads. They were also the company who tested Kate and the twins' hair for drugs, by the way. But there were 4 different reports of potential sightings of Madeleine in Morocco that they investigated. One report came from a Norwegian woman who said she had seen a young girl matching Madeleine's description at a gas station near Marrakesh on May 9, 2007. The child, she claimed, had asked the man she was with, in English, quote, "Can we see Mummy soon?" end quote. When the woman later learned about Madeleine's disappearance, she contacted Spanish police. But according to Kate, weeks passed before investigators interviewed the witness. Concerned that leads were not being pursued, the McCanns themselves traveled to Morocco in June of 2007 to raise awareness. They spent the night at the British ambassador's residence while meeting with diplomatic staff and police. And private investigations continued for years. In 2008, Madeleine's Fund hired a Washington, D.C. registered detective agency called Oakley International for more than £500,000. A 5-person team traveled to Portugal, led by a former British police officer who had previously worked with MI5. They conducted undercover operations within the Ocean Club Resort and among suspected criminal networks. The investigators questioned the reliability of the Tanner sighting. If you remember, Jane Tanner was the one who said she saw the man carrying a little girl with light pajamas, but about the time she said that, or when that happened, Jerry was on his way back and they didn't cross paths for some reason. So instead, they focused on another report, the sighting by Martin and Mary Smith, and that was the couple that had seen a man carrying a child toward the beach that night. So based on their description, Oakley investigators created those e-fit images, but the sighting became controversial. After watching television coverage of the McCanns returning to England, Martin Smith briefly believed the man he had seen carrying the child might have been Jerry McCann. So he later accepted that he was mistaken, because witnesses had also placed Jerry at the restaurant at the exact same time. Still, the resemblance in the sketches fueled some conspiracy theories. The images were given to police, but were not released publicly at the time. Years later, in 2013, Scotland Yard revealed the efforts during a televised reconstruction on the BBC show Crime Watch. When it emerged that the McCanns had possessed the images since 2008, some controversy followed, and newspapers began to suggest that the couple withheld them for a reason. The McCanns denied this, saying the images had always been shared with police. The newspaper later issued an apology and paid damages. And despite years of investigation, millions of pounds and dollars spent, thousands of reported sightings, one question remained unanswered: what happened to Madeleine McCann? By 2009, 2 years after Madeleine disappeared, the case had grown colder, but Kate and Jerry were not ready to let it fade. That year, the couple met with the British Home Secretary, Alan Johnson, asking the British government to review the investigation, and they agreed. He commissioned a report from Jim Gamble, the head of the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Center. When Gamble's report was delivered in May of 2010, it painted a troubling picture of the early investigation. So multiple British agencies had been involved in the search, alongside the Portuguese agencies. Everyone wanted to help, but according to Gamble, the sheer number of agencies involved had created confusion. Some organizations, he wrote, wanted not just to help, but to be seen helping. Competition between agencies has strained relations with Portuguese investigators and hindered cooperation. Gamble recommended starting again, this time with proper coordination between the two countries. He also urged investigators to analyze mobile phone records from the night Madeleine disappeared and to re-examine every lead, including those uncovered by private investigators. 1 year later, these recommendations began to take shape, and then Home Secretary Theresa May launched a new investigative review, giving it the name Operation Grange. Operation Grange consisted of 29 detectives and 8 civilian staff members, led by Commander Simon Foy, and their mission was clear: review every piece of evidence connected to Madeleine's disappearance. Within 24 hours of receiving confirmation that Portuguese authorities would cooperate with the new investigation, then Prime Minister David Cameron publicly announced that the operation was true. Operation Grange soon became one of the largest missing person investigations ever undertaken by British police, and over the next several years, detectives worked through an enormous volume of material. They translated tens of thousands of documents because everything was written in Portuguese. They analyzed more than 8,000 reported sightings. They released age-progressed images showing what she might look like. By 2015, investigators had taken over 1,300 witness statements and examined more than 1,000 pieces of evidence. They also reviewed hundreds of potential suspects, including 650 known sex offenders in the area. Yet, despite the massive effort, no definitive answers emerged. Side note, the town that this resort in, I said it in the first episode, population was about 3,000 people. So it's not just this town, but the surrounding area. Nearby, you have 650 registered sex offenders.
Nuts. As soon as you just said that, I was like, excuse me. That's a lot.
That is quite a bit. Quite a bit. Hey, at least they're registered.
That's insane. I wonder why statistically they're all kind of in that little area.
There must be something going on. They're all hanging out together or something. I don't know.
I lived in, well, you guys remember when I lived in Mayflower? They told me, they were like, yeah, there's a high population of like sex offenders in this area because statistically, like, they have all these rules around you can't be this close to a school or you can't be this close to this. And they're like, it's just a good area because they're not close to like this and they're not close to this. And they're like, so there's kind of like a large population like right here.
Oh, I guess I need to move close to a school.
Yeah.
But by late 2015, the investigation was scaled back and the team shrank to just 4 officers. Still, the British government continued funding it. Over time, the cost of Operation Grange rose to more than £11 million, and by 2024, over £13 million. From the beginning, Operation Grange focused on one central possibility. Detectives believe Madeleine's disappearance likely involved a criminal act by a stranger, perhaps a planned abduction, or perhaps a burglary, which they said gone wrong. I don't I don't know. Gone
Yeah.
wrong, I feel like is the wrong wording.
Right. You don't take a child in a gone wrong burglary.
The child did not sit there and try to defend the home.
No. She was a baby.
Between January and May of 2007, burglaries in the area had increased quite significantly. Two of those break-ins had occurred in the same apartment block where the McCanns were staying. So investigators wondered whether an intruder might have entered apartment 5A intending to steal and instead encountered a child and said, you know what? Might as well just take this one. So that was their
Yeah,
theory.
I don't like that theory. I think that's kind of stupid. A person breaking in somewhere to steal like jewelry or whatever would be like, you know what would be convenient? This kid just saw me. I'm going to take the whole kid. Like
A child.
a
What's
child
convenient? A
that
child.
probably couldn't describe you anyways. Like,
If you were gonna do that, there would be definitely like a ransom thing, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like hold for ransom.
No, I'm definitely leaning towards this was planned. They knew the parents went out to the same restaurant every night. They watched the apartment. This was planned. Their theory of maybe this was happenstance, whatever, gone wrong. But the chief inspectors did say that the disappearance looked pre-planned and that it would require staking out the apartment and the family very carefully. Several witnesses had reported seeing unfamiliar men loitering near the apartment in the days leading up to the disappearance, including that ugly blonde man we talked about last episode. In 2013, investigators released sketches of several men they wanted to identify. And in the same year, Crime Watch, the show in England, aired a dramatic reconstruction of the events. And just days after that TV episode aired, Portuguese authorities reopened the investigation. In June 2014, British and Portuguese investigators returned to the area. Accompanied by archaeologists and sniffer dogs, they searched a massive stretch of wasteland, roughly 60,000 square meters or 14 acres, and nothing was found. Later that year, Portuguese police conducted interviews requested by Scotland Yard. 11 people were questioned. Among them were Robert Murat again and several of his friends. One question reportedly included in the interview list was blunt and direct: did you kill Madeleine? And at the end of all those interviews, no charges were brought against anyone. So we've talked a lot about Kate and Jerry being involved, discussed how a potential stranger abduction could have occurred, but there are other theories. With no real clues, investigators had to start to wonder if Madeleine left the apartment by herself. Perhaps she woke up and went to look for her parents. Perhaps she was abducted outside of the apartment. Maybe she was hit by a car and hidden by the driver, or she fell at a nearby construction site. Madeleine was just a few weeks from turning 4, plenty big enough to walk off, but Mom Kate says that this is extremely unlikely. For Madeleine to leave the apartment alone, she would have had to open the patio doors, close the curtains behind her, pass through 2 child gates, and exit onto the street, all without waking her siblings. And also without anyone else seeing a child walking alone. Like we have reports of people carrying a child, but none of us a 3-year-old walking around late at night. Still, the possibility could never be entirely ruled out. Detectives turned to technology. Using mobile phone tracking data from more than 30 countries, investigators analyzed who had used cell phones near the Ocean Club on the night Madeleine disappeared. And one set of calls caught their attention. The calls involved a former Ocean Club bus driver and 2 of his friends. All 3 men were questioned in 2014. Of course, they denied any involvement. Another name emerged from the records. I don't know how to pronounce it. Euclides Montero, a former restaurant employee who had once been fired for theft. His phone had been active near the resort that evening. So it was theorized that Montero committed burglaries to feed his drug habit, and his wife said he had been questioned in the past about break-ins involving the sexual assault of children. Montero died in 2009, and his DNA has cleared him of any involvement in those break-ins. And by those break-ins, I mean the ones that police theorized he had committed, not necessarily Madeleine's. But speaking of those break-ins and assaults, between 2004 and 2006, there were 4 cases of a man sexually assaulting 5 girls between the ages of 7 and 10 in their beds. All 4 were break-ins of vacation homes being rented out by British families. 2 of these attacks were in the same town as the Ocean Club resort. The man was described as having short, dark, messy hair, tan skin, and a distinctive smell, whatever that means. He spoke English, but with an accent. His speech was slow, maybe even slurred like he was drunk. Police believe these incidents are connected, but these cases also remain cold without any movement.
The distinctive smell got me. Like,
I,
that's so mean, you know?
he's assaulting children. We can be mean.
I know, but yeah, yes, yeah, you're right. But if someone ever says, you know what, that cake girl, she had a distinctive smell, I'd be rolling over in my grave.
These people have really funny descriptions, like
Very blunt,
And distinctive is not mean a
not a good
good
one.
smell.
they're pungent.
This next part, I remember when this news broke and we were all texting each other about it. There was a plot twist in the Madeleine McCann case. In June of 2020, German prosecutors, out of nowhere, announced that they had identified a suspect, Christian Bruckner. Bruckner, a German man, had a long criminal history that included child sexual abuse, drug trafficking, and rape. At the time of this announcement, he was in prison after his conviction for raping a 72-year-old American woman in the same region as the Ocean Club Resort. He was also put on trial in 2024 in Portugal for 5 sexual offenses between 2000 and 2017, but he was acquitted of those charges. But let's talk about why Christian Bruckner was named a suspect in Madeleine McCann's case. At the time Madeleine disappeared, investigators believed he had been living in the Algarve region in a borrowed camper van. Investigators also revealed that Bruckner's phone had been active near the town at the time Madeleine vanished. According to prosecutors, another phone had called his number, and the two devices remained connected for roughly 30 minutes that evening. One of Bruckner's former girlfriends later told police that night before the disappearance, he had said, quote, "I have a job to do in Praia da Luz tomorrow. It's a horrible job, but it will change my life," end quote. In 2023, investigators from Germany, Portugal, and the UK searched land near the RA Dam, which is about 31 miles from the town. Nothing conclusive was found. In June 2025, another search targeted scrubland and abandoned buildings between the town and a cottage where Bruckner had once lived. Heavy machinery and ground penetrating radar were used, but again, no definitive evidence emerged. So it doesn't sound like much other than he might have been in the area, but German authorities said they have, quote, concrete evidence, end quote, that Madeleine had been killed.
So obviously there's something.
And they have not said what. I hinted at it in part one. Remember, ugly blonde man hanging out in the area, staring at apartment 5A. He was on the stairwell of the building, out on the patio, etc. Just note in this case, if you haven't seen a picture of Christian, he is definitely blonde, and I would say also ugly. And don't feel bad for saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with he's, you know. Yeah.
So Christian Bruckner has not been formally charged in Madeleine's disappearance. There appears to be some jurisdictional issues. Authorities aren't sure where his last German address was, which would determine which court the trial would take place in, which is very different than American trials. Where the crime is committed is where the trial is. In Germany, apparently it's wherever your home address is.
Weird.
Yeah, that is weird. Wait, can I just say I looked up Christian because I forgot what he looked like. To play devil's advocate, okay, you meanie pants. He has a lot of acne scars. Like that kind of sucks.
Wait, is he a bad guy?
He's been convicted of several rapes.
Okay, he's ugly.
Okay. He does look like a creeper though. Like, when you just look at someone and you're like, ah, that's a creep.
Kate's like to play devil's advocate for a second. He looks like a creep.
No, just like he's when you say ugly, I feel bad. He looks like a creeper.
Yeah, I will not say that someone is ugly unless they're guilty of
Some of these
something.
pictures are extremely unflattering, okay? But he deserves whatever.
He's guilty of multiple rapes. The man's ugly as fuck.
Yeah, he's fucking ugly.
Goodbye.
Yes, we're not calling acne scars ugly, but if you're a sex offender and you have acne scars, then yeah, they're ugly.
Yeah.
Alarmingly, Christian Bruckner was released from prison in September of 2025, and apparently he's just kind of living a nomad life, moving between motels and homeless shelters across Germany. He was required to wear an ankle monitor and surrender his passport, though, so that's kind of good, I guess. So, for the time being, it seems like German police are continuing to investigate and attempting to figure out this jurisdictional issue. which seems to be taking forever, in my opinion. Sort it out. I wonder if we can send them an email.
A strongly worded email.
So we don't know what this concrete evidence authorities in Germany have on Christian Bruckner, so it's hard to judge how likely he was involved. There have been other leads, most of which hadn't gone anywhere. Early on, police cast an incredibly wide net, showing Kate and Jerry photos of convicted predators in the area to see if a face triggered a memory. I don't believe the McCanns or anyone else saw this man in the area, but one of the convicted pedophiles that came under scrutiny was Raymond Hewlett. He was a British man living in Portugal at the time. In 2009, private investigators hired by the McCanns attempted to question Hewlett after a report surfaced that he had allegedly told someone he knew what happened to Madeleine. But when approached, Hewlett denied the claim and withdrew the statement. Later that year, in December, he died of cancer in Germany before investigators could pursue the lead any further. Another potential lead involved two men who had been running a window cleaning service in the Canary Islands at the time Madeleine had vanished. Years later, both men were imprisoned in Scotland for murder. The team working Operation Grange did look into these two men, but once again, the trail went cold. And I have no idea how they even got to that point of questioning them. They've never said. Then there was a man from Northern Ireland whose name surfaced in media reports after his death in 2013. After serving time in prison for sexually assaulting his 4 daughters, he had relocated to a town 25 miles from the resort. So again, another pedophile allowed to move to Portugal. Anyways.
What's up with this? Okay.
Crucially, he was living there at the exact same time Madeleine disappeared. Yet, despite this disturbing proximity in history, investigators were unable to establish any direct link. Another name that caught investigators' attention was Urs Hans von Osch. Von Osch was already a suspect in the 2007 murder of 5-year-old Jelenia Linhard in Switzerland. Jelenia vanished on July 31st, 2007, almost 3 months after Madeleine disappeared. Her body was discovered in September, and investigators determined she had died from poisoning. At the time Madeleine vanished, von Osch had been living in Spain, but the similarity between the cases raised alarm for investigators. And yet again, nothing conclusive tied him to the disappearance in Portugal. Then, in 2016, another shocking name entered the conversation. Officers from Operation Grange interviewed an alleged victim of the late British broadcaster Clement Froude, who that year had been accused of a history of child sexual abuse. Froude had owned a home in Praia da Luz and, in a strange twist, had actually befriended the McCanns just weeks after Madeleine vanished in 2007. His family later stated that Froude had been in the United Kingdom on the night she disappeared. Still, his connection to the area and to the family made him another unsettling footnote in an investigation already filled with dead ends. Over the years, dozens of suspects, theories, and potential predators have been examined in connection with Madeleine McCann's disappearance. But for investigators, the challenge has always been the same: separating coincidence from connection and finding the one lead that finally explains what really happened that night. Meanwhile, the case had become something else entirely, a global media sensation. From the beginning, the disappearance of Madeleine had been one of the most heavily covered criminal cases in modern history. Social media, which was still in its infancy in 2007, became a breeding ground for accusations and conspiracy theories. Online harassment targeted the McCann family. At one point, a threat was posted to kidnap the twins. A man who distributed leaflets accusing the parents was later given a sentence for the crime. Another online critic died after being confronted by journalists about hundreds of hostile tweets she had posted. The case had become, in many ways, a trial by media. And in the end, several newspapers were forced to pay large libel statements and issue public apologies, but the story continues to fascinate the public. Nearly 2 decades have passed since the night Madeleine McCann vanished from apartment 5A. Millions of dollars have been spent, thousands of leads have been investigated, and still it is a mystery that remains. What happened to Madeleine McCann?
Personally, I don't think we know who it is. I think they're way gone at this point. I think that someone probably had been tracking the group or had seen them that day and had just been watching them, broke into the apartment, not hard to break in when your doors are unlocked, took the girl, she's gone. I do not believe that she's alive in any manner.
I agree with that. I mean, the likelihood of keeping a child alive and hidden for that long is not good.
Yeah.
I want to know what this concrete evidence that the German police have.
Right.
I wonder what it's going to take for them to release it. I guess an arrest.
I guess, yeah, an arrest, or if they bring Christian Bruckner to trial, which they need to figure that out.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with Kate. I think that she probably was just the family was stalked while they were there, and it was some kind of offender. We know now that there was tons of them in this area, and I think unfortunately they just saw an opportunity and took it. And I think it's sad that the family has gotten so much scrutiny.
I know, because I remember hearing about this case years and years ago, and I'm like, oh, the parents definitely did it, covered it up. And then now that like actually going through all the evidence, like, oh, all of that was just rumors and lies the police were giving the media.
Right.
I totally remember at some point thinking it was the parents.
We owe them an apology. I'm so sorry.
Me too.
All right. I'm gonna jump into overtime. Holly had a great idea of sharing our favorite things currently. Trying to become influencers, guys.
It's all these brands. You can find us and sponsor us. Just shoot us an email.
Kylie at overmydeadpod.com, by the way.
What are some things in y'all's like daily life, like you use it every single day, multiple times a day, that you
Oh,
can't like live without?
okay. I have one like ride or die product. Surprising. It's the Bath and Body Works hand mask. I go to Bath and Body Works and I'll buy 6 of them at a time.
I've never even seen a hand mask. Is it like
I have
something you slip over like a glove or is it like a just a cream?
No, it's like a cream, but it's like a gel consistency. I don't know why they call it a mask, but like it lasts a lot longer than like any hand cream. And it's not like greasy or like sticky or slippery. And it's so good.
That's hilarious.
I've never even heard of that.
No one has. And I was just in there one day. I was like, oh, I'll try this. Yeah, I went back and bought all of them. Mm,
Guys, I have a lot of things that I'm very attached to.
let's hear it.
Okay, I was hoping you'd ask. My Blistech chapstick, the kind that's like a not, it's not like a chapstick tube, it's like a, damn it, I wish I would have collected all my stuff to show you guys. I love showing off my,
Like a push one.
yeah, it like pushes and it's like this big. Maybe I should show y'all pictures. Wait, it's not Blistech. I'm sorry. Shit, it's Aquaphor. Let me go back. Let me
That's,
go
I
back.
was like,
It's
I
a
was trying to
big.
think, I was like, I didn't know Blistech made that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you would think that I would know that. That's actually so embarrassing.
You're talking about like the little tube and it has like the little hole on top. I use that when I go to bed at night. That's my little lip mask every night.
It is, I guess you can't see.
Yeah,
It's
it's like the push.
the best chapstick. It's the best. End of story. I've been really obsessed with these pens lately. They're called Four Candies. I found them on TikTok shop. They're like really, you guys know I'm into office supplies. They're like really smooth, like feeling. They have a roller ball for fidgeting, and they have the best glide little tip ever. I'm obsessed with them.
I
Also,
swear to God, I have those pens and I
Like,
didn't know that they were a thing. I think I just got them off of like Amazon or something.
the best. Also, really into these midliner highlighters. They don't smudge and they're like pastel and very much like I hate it when you get a Sharpie highlighter or like I don't know those other brands and you highlight over something and then you can't see it. The point of me highlighting was so that that I saw it better, and now I can see it worse. Those are the best. EOS lotion,
Oh,
vanilla cashmere. I got the body wash,
vanilla
the lotion.
cashmere.
Yup.
I got the whole set. I got the shower wash. I got the cream. I got the lotion. I got the pot of it in the like the real thick stuff. I'm talking like your foot lotion. It is the best. I think I'm gonna get some perfume because I'm obsessed with it.
It's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Same. And then Kylie knows I've been talking about it since I've been here. I'm really on a Red Bull kick. The ice vanilla berry one is my favorite. And subtle plug, I am obsessed with my poppies, my drinks, my little poppy drinks. I drink one probably like 2 or 3 a day.
Ollie, I've never had a poppy or
I haven't either.
like an Ollie Pop or any of those, Kylie.
Stop.
Never had it.
No. I'm not a seltzer girl though. I don't or bubbles in general, like even soda, I like a sip and then that's it.
Oh gosh. I mean, I had to start drinking those because I love a bubble. I love a little fizz, a little spiciness. I love it. And it's really honestly, water's boring. Like, I hate to be like that. I hate water, can't stand it. And I need it to be exciting.
See,
And
this is why you need to watch Secret Lives of Mormon Wives because they love their sodies too.
I know I have heard that. I know that they like their dirty sodas and they put like the cream in them and stuff like that. I try to be on the low cal side of the sodas, so like the Ollipops and the Poppies, they have like 15 to 30 calories. And so I'm like, okay, it's like basically water, you know what I'm saying?
It's
Um,
not.
yeah,
Not
I
at all.
mean it is. It's basically
It's
water. Come on.
really not. It's
And it's got water in it. It
she's getting
does. Where do you think these liquids originate? They're all water. You know what I'm saying?
not.
Some
It's
big
not how that
conspiracy that you
works.
have to drink water. Come on.
I don't know who told you that.
It's just science.
All right. Well, on my list, I'm gonna go the complete opposite of Holly. I drink water. I'm actually fucking obsessed with water. I don't drink anything but water. And something I can't live without, and literally is probably my only thing I'm gonna talk. Well, I have one more. Is I like a few years ago got one of these big ass Stanleys, but it's the ones that don't have the handles on it for people who are listening. I can't do the handle with the straw thing. You tip it over, donezo. I need these big ones. I love water. I fill it up multiple times a day. It's all I drink. It's good for you. There's no bubblies. It's wonderful. It's all in
Yeah,
our body.
Kate lost her comfort Stanley the other, like actually the other day. It was like months ago, and she was like,
I did.
"Guys, emergency! Help me pick a new color. I'm
Yep.
lost."
Actually, if this just tells you something, I lost it at my OB's office and then went back and got it and then lost it at a Home Depot. Same day. Same day.
Hmm.
Girl, why
Yeah.
were you at Home Depot? Women are
Yeah,
not allowed there.
What's
they
wrong
let
with
you in.
you?
I've never heard of a woman going to Home Depot.
Oh, I love Home Depot.
What do you do at Home Depot?
Get stuff for the house. Who does stuff in my house?
Are you like buying wood and shit? What are you doing?
I'm building shit usually.
What are you building?
Well, I mean, the desk I'm recording on, I built.
What the hell? I didn't know you
Since
were a
when?
carpenter.
What?
I got a piece of wood. I sanded it. I stained it. I built it. You're in a closet right now, but I made it a cloffice.
I didn't know
No
you were.
wonder Kate's so busy. She's she's
Wait, you
making
guys didn't know
with
this?
my
That's why
hands.
you're facing the background of my screen is my bed. I'm in a
Well,
closet.
well, I knew you were in a closet, and I was hoping you'd come out one day, but I didn't know you built the desk.
Yeah, I like home. Like if I need to change a light bulb, or if I need to do something with the weeds in my yard or build a desk. I did all the when we moved into this house, I took off all of the what are these things called?
Handles?
Mm-hmm, like hardware.
Hardware off of everything, spray painted them and then put them back on.
Damn, what is the point of having a husband?
Um, yeah, he doesn't do any of that.
I mean, I could spray paint hardware. Like that's something I would like to do, but
Like
building
I
a
would have done
desk,
your hutch, Holly.
but
I would have done
no.
it myself.
Well, I could have done it myself too. It's just a really porous wood, and I was scared because I've done stuff like that before, and it's cost me more than it has to just have it professionally done.
Yeah. I didn't say it was going to be good.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
could have done it bad.
Yeah, I
I
would have.
like painting stuff.
I
You
love
won't catch
painting.
me building a desk.
It's actually a floating desk. So there's no four legs. I have it attached at like a triangle almost. I'll send you guys pictures. There wasn't going to be enough room, so I wanted to make sure it was going to stay. So it's like in the wall.
Damn, I didn't know you're handy like this.
Anyways,
Handy woman.
you know, when your partner doesn't do it, you got to figure out some things.
I'm currently trying to figure out how to change out light fixtures.
Ooh, very hard. I can help you with that. I did that in my house.
Did you? I'm
Yeah.
scared. I had someone come and quote me today. Actually, the guy was here this afternoon. $860 to
Yeah.
change out four light fixtures. Like,
Yeah. It's because
okay.
you don't want to get electrocuted.
I don't, but I
I
also
have a
want to
I
pay
have a device.
860.
Grandpa Steve, Cameron's dad, he's the one that taught me to do this stuff. He showed me how to change light fixtures here because I wanted to do them when we moved into this house. And I have a device that tells me if I've turned the power off to certain lights. So I can mail it to you if you want to use it, and then we can go step by step.
Wait, Kate, why don't you just
Wait,
come?
why don't I just go?
Go
How are you
where?
a guest? To your house.
Oh yeah, come on down.
Yeah,
No,
I'll
gr-
change the light fixtures for you.
yeah, girls' trip to do some DIY.
Yeah,
Kylie,
Kaylee.
you coming? You quit your job, Kylie.
Well, Holly's already employed my boyfriend to redo her floors, so I guess he's going.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. When does he start on that, by the way?
I'll send him an email.
Yeah. That's so funny. I checked the price of my floors the other day. It's like $9 to $10 a square foot.
Yeah. Being an adult is just nuts.
Yeah, just having a cute house is really hard.
Really hard, as you can see from my missing TV.
All right, guys, we're gonna go cry about adulthood. But
How
we'll
did
see.
our favorite products turn into this?
Who knows?
It all comes back.
I just talked about water.
That's
Home Depot, that's
Kate's.
what got us.
Oh yeah, Home Depot. Oh wait, let me just say this before we finish. I also have a horrible addiction to CarMax, okay?
Mm.
Anyone who's listening to this podcast that knows me knows that I have to shout that out. Otherwise, it's just wouldn't make any sense. Horrible addiction. Can't go like an hour without putting on CarMax. So that's it. Water and CarMax. Who am I?
What crazy addiction she has.
Yeah.
Get help.
All right, listeners, send us your favorite things and whether you're a woman that goes to Home Depot. And we'll see you next week with another episode. I think it'll be Holly's turn. And make sure you like, subscribe, follow. Holly's nervous already,
I'm perpetually nervous.
but she's going to do great. So make sure you tune in. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.